Hello, everybody. So you have to mind that Nat and I look like we're suddenly gone red. There's a combination of probably
Because
being
I'm
too
very
hot.
red. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
too hot. We haven't colour
I'm
corrected
not
this.
that red. It's actually the room. I'm not.
Yeah, we haven't colour corrected it to look like, crayons or anything. I've got my big bright light on and I suddenly realised it's quite hot, but it's also hot outside. This was like the worst idea ever. Hey, Nat, shall we discuss the next series that we're doing for the blues stuff with Guitar Weekends? I think that would be a better idea than me describing myself as a crayon. I don't know. I don't know whether or not it's useful information to you all, but I probably think that you'd be more interested in guitar. Anyway, so if you were on our past series with Nat, you'll know that it was called Blues Vocabulary, and we were looking really at box 1 and box 2 from the pentatonic. I believe that's right, Nat. And you were looking at the solo stuff. In the next one, I think we're going to go a little bit more towards groove. So because we had quite a few people like, we love being able to solo, but what do I do if I want to kind of just be in a band and be able to jam successfully? And I remember in our last session when we did like just an open evening of, it sounds like we're all back at school. Hello, students. we had that, and you started just doing like you were kind of doing this. I was like, "Whoa, dude, what's that?" And then I'll be honest, I kind of took it. In the next, I think that weekend, I was doing a fingerstyle mastery course. And then we just did this bit. I was like, "Do you want to have a bit of fun?" And they were like, "Yeah." So we had our sandwiches in the garden because it was at my place. It was very dapper. Put the kettle on. We came back and we started doing this, and everybody loved it. And it was like, what was so cool about it, which is something that I think you suggested you're going to do this in the first session of series 2, is just looking at how you can take basic dyad and triad shapes, but how you're getting that backbeat, that little bit of percussive slap, and then sticking basic licks within that so that you can be a full guitarist. So do you want to like give us a little kind of sample, a little showcase of what that might kind of sound like?
Yeah, sure. So it was. I'll just switch my camera again, but it was similar to what you were doing there, but essentially you're going to play a bass note. So this is if we're playing a blues in A, you're going to play a bass note, and you're playing like what we'd call a little dyad, which is basically a mini chord or 2 intervals from the chord or the scale you're playing, and we basically get this rhythm. So we're just playing through a 12 bar here. Etc. So that's essentially the kind of main thing that we're going to focus on initially, and it enables you to be able to kind of do something that sounds a little more wholesome, kind of on your own. That's bluesy. So you might have noticed as well with my picking hand, my right hand, I'm adding these kind of muted and percussive things. So the main one I'm adding is like the backbeat. So the backbeat is the second and the fourth beat. But I'm also, in my head when I'm playing that, because we're playing like a blues shuffle with swung eighth notes, I'm hearing this kind of like a drum shuffle rhythm. So I'm trying to emulate that.
Do you often think that though, Nat, so that when you're doing it, like something that I say to my students is, it's all very well being a guitarist, but you kind of need to think like a drummer, because then you can, if you segment the bar down almost like a ruler, so like, you got beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4, they're the centimeter lines on your ruler, and then you've got the eighth notes, the quavers, which are the the ands, the upbeats, and they're the little line, and then your 16th notes are all the smaller ones. And if you segment your bar down, you can then break it into how you're doing that with the hand. I mean, obviously, you'll be showing this on the course, but like, it's interesting to watch you doing that. Something else I just wanted to pick up on. I'm not sure if my camera's set up in the right place, but let's see if it is.
Probably in the kitchen.
Back to making cups of tea. I mean, we are filming this from kind of England, so maybe I should get in there. Would you like a herbal? It would be so great if you could just. We could just transport stuff like in Star Trek or something. But I'm noticing that
teleporting.
You're not using the open A. Now, is that because
No.
when you're learning it, are you wanting a certain sound, or is it because this is now transferable to other positions? You know,
Yeah, I think.
if I wanted to change the key or something.
Yeah, so I think the fact that you can move it more easily if you're using the fretted A note on fret 5 of the low E as opposed to the open A, that's one factor. So, for example, I could play this in G, or actually, let's say I'll play this in B because you can actually see that. So I could do the same thing in B. So I've just moved the whole thing up 2 frets, basically. But so it's that it makes it a movable shape, but also you've kind of got a bit more control over the muting if you're fretting a note with your fretting hand, as opposed to
So you're
playing an open string.
So essentially, guys, what Nat's doing there is you're releasing pressure with the fretting hand, but the finger
Exactly.
itself isn't coming off the whole string.
Yeah, so you're just, I'm not, you can hear that and
see,
maybe
yeah.
see that. So it's kind of that motion. So
So basically, all of these kind of things, obviously, because it'll all be written out for you. You get a detailed PDF, and you'll be going through the different elements. So, I mean, most likely you would stack that. So you'll start without the fret muting, without the hits, and just go for
Exactly.
very basic. And
just
so
get the
even,
rhythm first.
yeah, so even if you're kind of like, okay, you're a slightly more kind of beginner level player, but if you think, oh, okay, I can do those basic chords, and you'll get a little prep sheet with those shapes, right? You could definitely do this, and that's the idea, I think, of these courses, and what's so great about the way you put it together, Nat, is that everything is leveled up, even within the lesson itself. And when it comes to groove, that's such a good way to do it. And I think that's why, as like tutors, we always break it down to say, okay, you might not be able to read music, and it's great if you can, everybody, but at least if you understand rhythmic notation or feel of music, because I noticed obviously like last night when you were doing the last session in series 1, when you do your solos, you count everyone in, but your foot is tapping, like so you internally have that clock built into you for what the BPM is, right, beats per minute. So I mean, really, don't worry if you think what Nat's doing there is quite hard. It's not that hard. It's breaking it down, and you'll cover that. So what happens? So, for instance, like by the end of session 1, you'll have all these grooves down. You'll have layered it up to having the percussive elements. You'll have the rhythm right. But let's say we just wanted to add in a few licks. So let's say I was singing, and when I stop singing, that's kind of where you would usually get either a horn line or, in this case, you doing a line. Would you just give us like a little example of maybe if you were accompanying me as the blues or jazz singer, how you might do that, and you'll notice where Nat puts that lick. If you could give us a little example now, that would be great.
Yeah, so let me just go back to this camera so we can see what's happening. So if I had... So that kind of thing. I can't hear you there, actually, Andy. Seem to have lost you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know why?
There you
Because I was being sensible and muting myself while he was playing, and then I got very excited and started talking to myself, clearly. What a wonderful moment. No, what I was saying to myself was what I really like about that is even if you're a classical player or somebody like, there's something so cool about just hearing a groove with those little lines, and nothing that you're playing in the lines is overly complicated, but the way you play it is really good. And that's the thing that I think people will really get out of that first session is just, do you know what? You can absolutely sound magnificent and really put a smile on people's faces wherever you're playing without a lot. You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, like I could hear myself singing, which is why I muted. I was singing over the top, but obviously it would have been delayed on Zoom, and it sounds great. In lesson 2, obviously, again, it levels up. So it's probably worthwhile. We haven't got too long for this, but like, essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to build on the harmony the chordal harmony from lesson 1, and I'm just reading what you've kind of written here, by adding some chords to the 12-bar blues harmonic framework, and then looking at key moments in the 12-bar blues where you add chords to dress up your chordal playing to explore a wider palette of colours. I love the way you've written that, Nathaniel.
A wider palette
nice.
of colours.
Yeah. Delicious use of words there.
Thank you.
So when you're talking about...
Try my best.
We both passed GCSE English, well done. So when you're saying that you're going to be adding like more, you're dressing up the framework of the chords, what are we talking about there?
So basically, we're just adding some passing chords, you could think of it as. So the 12-bar blues uses just 3 chords in A. We use A7, D7 and E7, but they're like, depending on what you listen to or different bands and like musicians that you listen to, they might be dressing the harmony up. So a really good example of this is where you have chord 4 and you go from chord 4 to back to chord 1. So you might have A7 and D7, and then there's this chord in between which is actually a D sharp diminished. Now basically it helps us move back into the A chord, so we can either go A7 D7 back to A7, or we can do A7 D7 D sharp diminished 7 back to A7. So it's just a little passing chord that we're adding in there. And then there's other really simple things which work really well on the guitar. So when you get to E7, which is chord 5, you can just E7 and D7 are 2 frets apart. So you've basically got this chord in between the two. You've got a fret in between the two, and you can add a chord there. So you can basically just take this chord form, E7, which is an E, a G sharp and a D, 7, 6, 7 on the A, D and G strings. You can just move that down 1 fret and then down 1 more fret to get you to D.
So in essence, what you're essentially doing there is you're sitting on top of what a bass player might be doing.
Yeah,
you're following the harmony of the bass line, which is almost like, that was nice. Again, simple, but yeah, so that's kind of what you're doing. And also, for those of you that struggle with, okay, well, what do all those names mean, like a diminished chord and things? Don't worry, like that will be explained. But actually, you even if you don't understand the full harmony to begin with, like a nice way of kind of working those out is you relate them to other shapes you know. So, like if you look to Nat, when he was playing that, he did the D7 shape. Well, you could essentially, if you wanted to, I know it's not how you'd necessarily play it. And I've turned all my tone down. Okay, it's essentially the D7 triad, but with just the bass note raised up a semitone. So so many shapes are kind of linked. Like I think if I was doing, actually I can't see my screen, so goodness knows. Oh yes, you can see it. If you had that D7 shape, which we're kind of avoiding with this to keep people away from bar chords to begin with, and also I think that fills out the sound a lot, don't you? You know when people are using like, when people are doing this kind of... and it's like every single chord the whole time is like every single string on the guitar. It sounds a bit full, but what you're doing, which sounds so cool, is you're limiting what you're using and then adding to it. But just my point was going to be like, there's your D7 bar chord, but then if I just change the bass note with the second finger, then I'm getting that I'm getting the D sharp diminished shape.
Totally.
So don't worry again before you come on this if you're like, it sounds like there's going to be harmony in there that's complicated. Nothing is complicated once you understand it. Do you see what I mean? It's like everything. It's like just learning a new language, except you're not doing it on Duolingo. So I know they do music on there, but you're not going to... I've tried that. No. The languages are great. But I have this kind of principle of thinking, like, as soon as you tell yourself something's hard, you've kind of made it hard. Just think, I'm learning it, and you're going to get it great. So it then said again, I'm just going back, but within that section, once you develop the harmony, we were looking, you were saying, you're building your understanding of why these additional chords work to facilitate creation of your own approaches. So again, everything that you're learning, the idea is that you go through the lesson PDF, you have the 1 hour lesson with Nat, And then from that, you practice that material, but then you want to take the knowledge you've gained from it and try doing it yourself in other keys, okay? And just maybe you could listen to some blues tracks of some of your favorite artists or any type of artist, doesn't necessarily need to be blues, and then try and implement that over the top of those tracks. But obviously, again, people love to be able to add little licks in, so
Yeah.
I think you're saying that in session 2, not only are you building the harmony and dressing it up with a color palette, you're tasty. That is definitely an eyebrows raising moment. I wish we had a little bell that we could ring whenever we hear something tasty. A bit like Jonathan Frakes and his new podcast with the guy who plays Data. I can't remember his name right now.
Oh,
But,
I know the guy though.
Yeah, they've got a new podcast. It's brilliant, actually. If anyone's listened, they speak to loads of people, and they're just brilliantly funny. It's excellent. But you would then look at how those licks would be adapted to adapt to the harmony of the new chords. Is that something that you kind of...
Yeah, or well, in session 2, we'd just look at adding some basic little pentatonic fills in between those chords, but then actually the sort of looking at playing licks that are more specific to the chords would come in the third lesson.
Excellent. That's true, because actually, is it just worth saying? Sorry to, but actually, you can play original licks over those chords anyway, because the chords are used as passing chords, so they're creating dissonance, and then the resolve is coming from that.
Yeah, basically, and all of those chords that, like the additional chords that we would look at, they would all kind of form. Or they could all be considered part of the blues language, really. So you can kind of take them or leave them. And this is like, the great kind of session players, guys like, Larry Colton and Robin Ford and these guys. You'll hear them play over really complex progressions. And sometimes they might connect with all the chords and play, sort of more complicated sounding lines. And other times they might just play like bluesy licks and ideas that... but over a wide range of chords. But what that comes down to is understanding how the notes you're playing relate to the chords, or it's that also, but having a really good musical ear to be able to sort of hear which notes work. But anyway, you could play pentatonic licks over all these extra chords and they would sound fine. And I think what you said, Andy, is absolutely true, because they're passing chords. They're not chords we're sort of lingering on a long time. They happen for like a beat or... not much more than the beat most of the time. So, it works to just keep that language bluesy. But going into lesson 3, that's where we start to introduce some licks that kind of connect more with this, with these additional chords we've added. And that's where we'll get into like referencing arpeggios and sort of specific note choice. So we could use that example that you mentioned, Andy, where you said about the D and the D sharp diminished 7. So the chord shape that Andy used was kind of this bar chord from fret 5. If you know your cage system, it's kind of like an A shape D7. And basically to make that... excuse me, I've got a frog come to visit. To make that into D sharp diminished 7, you're just going to add your second finger at fret 6 of the A string. Well, if I took a D7 arpeggio, which if you were present at Blues Vocab Series 1, that's something we looked at, this arpeggio. If you play that arpeggio but you just change the D for the D sharp, that would give you your D sharp diminished. So you could go... You could kind of play little lines that's
so sexy, mate. I just want to put that. That was a moment that I need my bell. That was just special for me. It's interesting just because the way you're explaining it is so clear, right? And then you play it, but it just sounds so great. But our backgrounds are very different. I know I always come back to this, obviously, from mine being classical, but obviously I became more of a songwriter and fingerstyle player and all that kind of stuff. So I never studied electric guitar, even though I play it, and I think I play it, obviously I play it well, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I do for a living. I wouldn't be a session musician and different things for a living. But, like, obviously there's only so much you can cover in an hour. I was just going to ask a question. I mean, Is this something that you give your own students, though, to cover what you've just said? Because you're talking about arpeggios a lot, and then from that you're trying to make something musical, obviously, because you can't just play an arpeggio up and down and go. So the arpeggio you're saying, of course, is if you know how a chord is structured. So a major chord being 1, 3, 5, and we mean the first note, the third, and the fifth on the major scale, and even knowing that, you still need to know the semitone differences between them, don't you? So it's root note up 4 semitones to the third, up 3 semitones to the fifth, and then minor being 3, 4, augmented being 4, 4, diminished being 3, 3, and all that kind of stuff. Once you know that, and you know, therefore you can work out what notes are in a chord, the arpeggio obviously is allowing you to have shapes which you can learn to pinpoint. But like, do you have something that you use with your own students? Like, how do you approach it? Because what you're playing is it's incredibly musical just from that, the whole feel of it. But they've got to know the notes first. Like, is that something that you're covering? Because it's hard to cover all of that in an hour, but maybe you've got like a quick comment you can make on it.
I think obviously learning the different shapes is an important starting point. So you've got your roadmap. But something I used to do was, say I was doing that D7, D sharp, diminished 7 back to like an A7. Something I would do is just, hopefully you can hear those chords kind of moving by there. So I would just take an arpeggio shape and practice moving my way through it. So
you're trying to create the harmony of the chord, but through the arpeggio. And the idea is that really, myself as a listener, before you get to your solo, and my brain has now soaked in the juiciness of the chords and hopefully has kind of got it in there, you're highlighting those notes. So even if my guitar stopped working, you didn't have a rhythm player, I'd still be able to hear the harmony within what you're playing.
Yeah, essentially, so that what you're playing can outline the harmony on its own, essentially. Yeah, totally. So yeah, if you were just playing your solo, so that's basically just a 12 bar I played there, which was slightly more dressed up, but hopefully you could hear those chords as they were passing by, the A7, the D7,
It sounded
etc.
like you went to Ralph Lauren or something and bought some nice shirts.
That seldom happens, but but never mind. At least I give the impression it does occasionally.
Yeah, it's always good to walk in. It's always good to walk into somewhere you don't think you should be. With utter
why
confidence.
on earth am I in here? Yeah. But
I sometimes feel like that when I go to a studio session. I'm thinking, ooh, I'm not quite sure I'm the right person for this, but here we go.
Yeah, I am where I am.
How would you like that? Would you like it the way you want it or the way I'm going to play it?
We're about to find out.
Yeah. But I think, it sounds really, it's cool. I would suggest for anyone that is thinking of coming on this second series, like, you don't have to have done series 1 to come on it, because obviously it's a standalone thing. Each of the lessons are standalone, so you can actually you can buy them individually.
Absolutely. I think to get the full experience, to get the full sort of understanding and a rounded picture, I think kind of coming in for all three is probably the advice thing. But absolutely, you can just buy them individually and they will make sense on their own.
I would say it is cheaper to buy them together. So if that swings the pendulum towards you joining us, do it. But obviously, the other thing I would say is, because we're not going to run that until... We'll put the dates on the website, but we're not going to run that until after the summit. You still have time. Like, it's still advisable if you want to go and do Series 1, because it covers a lot of stuff already. And you might find that although this second series, now, I know you're saying that this is more groove-orientated, and then within that groove discussing dressing up the harmony, and then within dressing up the harmony you're putting in licks so that you sound like a real full all-round player on stage. But Series 1 was focusing more on the vocabulary of soloing. If you've done Series 1, then actually the understanding of how you are putting the licks in and where they work will actually... You'll probably be further down the line. And
Yeah,
therefore
I think
it will
so,
make
and
more sense at the moment.
definitely, and certainly in that lesson 2 where we look to add some pentatonic licks. Obviously, if you've done series 1, then you'll have some of those licks under your fingers, or you'll have some vocabulary that you can use, and you may have some already. And if you're a player who has some experience and can play some pentatonic solos well, then maybe you're better equipped to jump straight in on series 2. But yeah, it's worth considering.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I think we've probably covered basically the entire course. But hopefully you like it. And I mean, if you have any questions and you're not quite sure yet whether or not you're maybe the right level, or obviously, we're still going to perfect exactly what's going to be in that course, because it's a couple of months away, and they'll run every 2 weeks once they start. Just send a question, and you can just do that at info@guitarweekends.co.uk, or you can just go to the website and go to the Contact Us and send us an email, and one of us will respond to you as soon as we can. But for now, thank you, Nat, for summarising. You and I really need to get quicker at this, because goodbye. I'll have to try and sync that, because undoubtedly at your end that was out of time. I'm thinking it's recording at my end though. Yeah.
Yeah, so I look bad.
Yeah. No, hopefully I was in sync with what you were playing. But I love Zoom. But come along. I mean, one of the things, just to reiterate, like with this, because there's Zoom lessons, like people that come on the actual lesson, you're there, you can ask questions at the time. Otherwise, you will just get the recording of the whole session, and then you can do it at any time. Anyone that comes on, by the way, everyone gets it, whether you're there or not. You'll still get the recording, you'll get the PDF. We send the PDF usually about 2 or 3 days before, just so people can print it out or get it on their iPad or whatever device they want to use, and just have a quick scan through it. But we really hope to see you there. So again, thank you, Nat, for your time, and to everybody out there. We know there's I can't remember what you said the Google number was, but there's millions.
Up to 150 million. Yeah,
fabulous. So
there's no excuse.
There's no excuse. If at least half of you could sign up, we'd be really pleased.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nat and I, we might actually take a holiday, which will be the first time for a musician.
I might go to Ralph Lauren,
Christ, this sounds great. Actually, to be honest, I might go up to Notting Hill or something and go to one of the nice, expensive areas of London and just go in the charity stores where, ladies and gentlemen, you do get a seriously good deal. But I might actually be able to buy the shop. Or I might come buy a new guitar, which hasn't happened in a few years. Anyway, we are waffling, so we're going to say goodnight. Good night. We normally do this at night, ladies and gentlemen. So what I've done there is link goodnight with goodbye. So it's just good riddance, to be honest. And we'll see you soon. Ciao.
Goodbye.